Hello and welcome to Team PokeMart, your one-stop shop for things that you need to stop and or shop for, which ideally you should be able to do shortly enough because upper management has called in a rather large favor to fix up our power issues, a man who you may know as Lieutenant Surge, who as far as I'm aware was the former leader of the Vermilion City Gym, and I must admit I'm kind of annoyed that he was given the rank of Lieutenant, because I mean I've been with Team PokeMart for several decades now and they've never given me a rank. But as all of this electrical fixery is going on around us, I'd like to tell you a bit about Team PokeMart's lightning savior, but only after you've subscribed to the channel in order to keep updated on all of our latest stock. This part is very important. Do not be a not button pusher. Nobody likes those. Not me, not Ditto, not Surge, not Haunter, not upper management, not this weird Pikachu standing in the corner, and not me again. That's right, I put myself in there twice just to let you know how thoroughly unimpressed I am, valued customers. Now onwards, Lieutenant Surge is a rather bulky adult human, adults being quite rare in this world full of 10-year-olds, and he comes to us today as a war veterinarian. No, wait, sorry, that's not what that says. It actually says war veteran, which, alright, that makes a lot more sense. I'll just make a quick note, take that out in the edit. Phew, I'm glad I caught that. I could have looked like quite the fool on the internet. And he comes to us today as a war veteran, hailing from the United States of America. And as such, Surge's personality can be quite aptly described as loud, arrogant, and possesses an innate sense of unfounded superiority, which is on full display to the challengers of the gym, who he often refers to as babies, which he will continue to do until one of said babies manages to defeat him, which doesn't happen all that often. In addition to this, Surge is quite a brutal individual, although these days he certainly prefers not to fight his own battles, and instead he lives vicariously through the realm of Poke-Combat. In fact, our introduction to the very concept of Lieutenant Surge in the anime was a long line of heavily injured Pokemon that had attempted to win the Thunder Badge and failed, showing that Surge, unlike prior gym leaders to this point, really had very little sense of mercy. In essence, Surge only respects one thing, that one thing being the strength thing. You either have it and you are an equal, or you don't and you are a baby, which can be quite clearly seen in some of Lieutenant Surge's game quotes, such as, "Ten Hut, welcome to the Vermilion City Gym. Will you look at that, a pint-sized challenger. Ha ha ha. You've got big and brassy nerves to take me on with your puny power. A Pokemon battle is war. I'll show you, civilian. I'll shock you into surrender." So a very violent man there, very violent indeed. Now, unfortunately, very little is known about Surge's history, which I personally find quite concerning after having performed the mandatory Team Pokemon background check, but here we are. As stated before, he was an American soldier who did fight in at least one war, and allegedly in the game canon, Surge was also a pilot who used electric-type Pokemon to power his aircraft. And then in a turn of events that I can only currently describe as somehow, after the war, Surge made the decision to move to the Kanto region and take up life as the leader of the Vermilion City Gym, an institution that favors his greatest obsession being electric-type Pokemon. Now, Surge's primary role was to provide a third roadblock for Ash in his quest to attain various badges, and the two would meet when Ash made the decision to challenge Surge in Vermilion City. Now, this was honestly quite awkward for Ash because yes, he did technically have two badges by this point, however, they were both given to him under rather unorthodox conditions, which is to say that yes, he blatantly cheated. He attained the Boulder Badge by setting off a sprinkler system in the Rock Gym, and Ash quote-unquote earned the Cascade Badge for being a generally good guy in Cerulean City. So by this point, Ash had not actually earned a gym badge via the mechanism that they were designed to test, and Surge provided our plucky young cheat with an extraordinarily rude awakening. You see, for what was, for all intents and purposes, Ash's virginal gym battle, Surge was not gentle. He was not gentle at all. And Surge was very quick to whip out his Raichu upon seeing Ash's Pikachu, which, speaking of, is canonically Surge's only Pokemon in the anime incarnation. Although every game other than Pokemon Yellow does greatly expand on his team, and he commonly sports Voltorbs, Electrodes, Magnemites, and Mangatons, as well as the occasional Electabuzz. Back to matters at hand though, Surge's Raichu went on to absolutely decimate Ash's Pikachu, leading to a wide array of mockery coming from the mouthful orifice of Surge, who amongst other things claimed that Pikachu should have evolved into a Raichu long before now. An idea that Ash and Pikachu did not exactly agree with, primarily because it would have involved Ash acting like, you know, a Pokemon trainer, that thing that he isn't. But thankfully, Ash and Pikachu still had one option open to them, which was to implement the most basic of battle strategies, which was actually concocted by Brock. So after having healed up, Surge once again met Baby in battle, except this time Pikachu was ordered to do nothing except focus on dodging rather than any form of attacking. And what this resulted in was Surge using his frankly questionable tactical knowledge to continuously order Raichu to body slam over and over and over and over and over again again, to the point where it became a self-defeating mechanism, repeatedly damaging Raichu itself whilst Pikachu was able to comfortably dance around the arena like some sort of graceful ballerina. And thus Lieutenant Surge, a decorated, experienced war veteran and fully grown man, would be defeated by a 10-year-old and a small yellow rat. And at this stage I would like to remind you that this is the man that we are trusting to fix the power for this store, and I'm suddenly feeling much less confident about this whole idea. But this encounter really did highlight a much greater fatal flaw within Surge, which is that he believed so profoundly in raw power that he evolved his Pikachu into a Raichu ever so quickly that it did not have the opportunity to learn the speed-based utility moves that were only accessible to a Pikachu. Better late than never, I suppose, as Surge did go on to learn the error of his ways, as well as develop a considerable level of respect for Ash. Oh, that's difficult to say. And of course, Ash was then given a Thunder Badge. Hooray. But in regards to the anime, that really does more or less conclude Surge's role in the story, and the next time we would hear of him would not be until the 1103rd overall episode of the anime, which for some comparison, Surge's first appearance was the 14th episode, so flashback content aside, that was an absence of 1089 episodes. But even then, we don't actually meet him, because by this time the Vermilion City Gym had been taken over by Vizquez, who remembered Ash from way back in the Surge days, which chronologically would have been what, like a couple of weeks or months ago at most, because no one has actually aged. But in any case, the two had something of a Vermilion City rematch in which she used a Raichu that had been trained by Surge himself, although once again Ash came out on top. Meanwhile, all we really knew of Surge's whereabouts is that he was on a lonesome journey to train and become a better electric type Pokemon wielder, which honestly I think is for the best given his prior loss to Ash. But as much as that may conclude Surge's role in the anime, he has gone on to make some very intriguing appearances in other media, quite specifically the Pokemon Adventures manga, in which Surge is actually portrayed as an evil executive member of Team Rocket, which honestly I have to say is quite concerning because that means we do now have a known criminal working at Team PokeMart, but then again, that's nothing new. I mean, I myself have an incredibly dark and shady past that I must never speak of, so I can't judge Mr. Lieutenant Surge too harshly. But very interestingly, this manga Surge differs quite greatly to the one we've already explored, and his Pokemon team consists of excessive amounts of Voltorbs, Magnemites, Magnetons, as well as his favorite Electabuzz, which seems to be Surge's trump card of choice. He of course still possesses a Raichu, but he would not wield it in battle until the Johto portion of the series. However, alongside him in executive roles are some familiar faces you may have heard, such as Sabrina, Koga, and Giovanni, and together they would manage to capture and control the legendary birds Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres. But even with what could be described as the pinnacle of power, they were still beaten by a combination effort of children being red, blue, and green. Some more fun facts about Lieutenant Surge. In the Japanese incarnation of the anime and the games actually, Surge has the tendency to use bits and pieces of English in his speech, which is a common technique wielded in Japanese media to emphasize how specifically American some characters can be. And one of the words that Surge tends to use at every opportunity granted to him is goddamn. Bizarrely enough, in Pokemon Stadium 2, Lieutenant Surge possesses a Raichu that knows the moves Surf and Reversal, which should be completely impossible to attain, although it is possible to attain Surf for Pikachu as an event move. So we have a very sneaky Surge here, taking a page out of the Ash Ketchum guide to cheating, hacking the system to create a stupidly cool Raichu. And this isn't even the full extent of Surge's debauchery. I mean, it actually predates this instance because in Pokemon Yellow, his Raichu knows the move Mega Kick, which, you know, the player's Raichu is incapable of learning, so I don't know. I think we should have some officials look into this man because his Pokemon battling history is dubious at best. Whether it was a direct inspiration or not, Surge does bear pretty incredible similarities to the character of Guile from the Street Fighter franchise. You know, they're both highly muscular, blonde, American military dude bras, so maybe that was just a stereotype of the time. However, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, this resemblance actually crosses a line into cosplay and or sheer plagiarism, as Surge's outfit pretty much perfectly mirrors Guile's standard attire. As stated far too many times in this video already, Surge is credited with hailing from the United States of America. Although in Black and White 2 during the Pokemon World Tournament, the question is posed as to whether or not Surge is actually from the Unova region, which is of course modeled after New York City, which also makes a lot of sense actually because it's also mentioned in Unovan history that they have been at war, so In the original Japanese, Surge's name is Matisse, which is actually taken from a clematis flower, although intriguingly this has resulted in the Chang'e translation of the Pokemonsters manga dubbing him as Matisse, as in Henri Matisse, the French painter who I've been forced to study at almost all stages of life in primary school, high school, university, and even now for a Pokemon related video on YouTube. He refuses to leave me alone. And finally, an even more useless fact than the one I just gave you, continuing along the trend of names in the French and German localizations of Pokemon, Surge's name is Major Bob, which is interesting because that would mean that Surge has received a promotion, and apparently that is a very stereotypical American name. Bob. And wow, would you just look at that? Just like magic, the power has been fixed. So let's all say thank you to our former and potentially current criminal, Mr. Major Lieutenant Surge, and you may now return to wherever it is that you came from. Meaning that we here at Team PokeMart can now return to what it is we do best, which is extorting currency from you, the valued customer. So please do make sure to stop by Team PokeMart and say hi, which you can do in the comments below. And if you're interested in some of our other merchandise, then please do click these tantalizing links over here, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for regular updates on our new stock. But for now, this has been Team PokeMart, and we'll see you next time.